Hello, you're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. India's national capital witnessed a classic case of state versus protesters today as dramatic scenes unfolded, from thousands of protesters marching towards the parliament to the police dispersing youngsters with lathi charge and tear gas. Even as cockroach Janata Party members met with Union Minister JP Nadda, remember the questions that arose were, could all of this have been avoided? And will the government now fulfill the demands of the protesters? We decode for you on Race to Power tonight. And we also get you what UK's new Prime Minister Andy Burnham said in his first speech after assuming office. Can he deliver on the tall promises that he's made to the people, all while balancing ties with allies, particularly the United States? We talk about it on the show today. But first, what has been happening in India's national capital, in the parliament, inside the parliament and outside of it. Both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha were adjourned today after reconvening on the opening day of the monsoon session due to heavy sloganeering and protests by the opposition MPs. Following the uproar, proceedings in both houses were suspended.
प्रश्नकाल के अंदर नारेबाजी करना, तख्तियां लहराना उचित नहीं है। आप सब वरिष्ठ सदस्य हैं, प्लीज आपसे आग्रह है कि अपनी सीट पर बैठें, सदन चलाने में सहयोग करें। सदन नहीं चलाना चाहते।
The Lok Sabha, the House was adjourned till noon. After reconvening at noon, proceedings lasted for just 7 minutes before the House was adjourned once again amid heavy sloganeering by the opposition members. Presiding over the House in the absence of Speaker Om Birla during the second sitting, BJP MP Dilip Saikia urged members to allow the Parliament to function and take up pressing national issues.
Climate change, I'll mention against my name. माननीय अर्जुन राम मेघवाल जी, item number 6.
चेयरपर्सन सर, मैं आपकी अनुमति से
Similar scenes were also witnessed in the upper house of the parliament, leading to repeated adjournments. However, the opposition continued their sloganeering and protests, bringing proceedings to a standstill on the opening day of the session. The Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha were adjourned for the day. Meanwhile, leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, raised the NEET undergraduate paper leak issue, saying that it concerns the future of lakhs of students. He repeated the same while speaking with media outside the parliament. Take a listen.
We have given already notice and spoke about that. The NEET examination, which has taken several lives, and government is not taking care of students, और ये तो students को मारने का काम सरकार कर रही है.
The opposition said that it wants to hold the Modi government accountable on issues including alleged irregularities in Ram Mandir donations, exam paper leaks, the ethanol blending policy and other matters affecting the public. The monsoon session of the parliament, remember, began today and it will continue till the 13th of August. Well, that was inside the parliament, but what was happening outside the parliament through the day today? The national capital witnessed massive protests as thousands of protesters from the cockroach Janata Party converged over security barricades near the parliament complex. They have been demanding sweeping reforms to the education system and protesting against paper leaks. Meanwhile, the government has urged protesters to end their sit-in at central Delhi. These are the visuals of the protesters when they attempted to break the police barricades today in order to reach the parliament. The demonstration called by the CJP saw thousands attempting to march towards the parliament from the Sansad Marg side. Members of the Cockroach Janata Party met with Union Health Minister JP Nadda with their 3 demands. After the meeting with JP Nadda, the BJP veteran minister made an appeal to the protesters to end their demonstrations. Now, the protesters are demanding the immediate release of Sonam Wangchuk, the resignation of the Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, and they've sought compensation of 1 crore rupees for the kin of the NEET candidates who died by suicide. Earlier in the day, security forces stopped the procession outside the Sansad Marg police station, where tensions escalated as protesters pushed against police barricades.
धारा 163 BNSS लागू है। यहाँ पर किसी भी तरह आप इस क्षेत्र को तुरंत खाली कर दें, वरना आपके खिलाफ कानूनी कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
Security forces used batons and fired tear gas to disperse sections of the crowd after the protesters attempted to breach security cordons. A few demonstrators sustained minor injuries during the baton charge and they were administered first aid at the scene. Minor scuffles between the protesters and the police were also reported at several locations. Now, the protest site remains packed. Now, remember, the protest site remains packed with demonstrators as hundreds of Delhi police personnel and paramilitary forces were deployed to prevent the march from advancing. Despite the heavy security presence, the police struggled to contain the large crowds. The Delhi police said that no permission has been sought or granted for any proposed march till the parliament. It advised citizens, in fact, not to participate in any unauthorized gathering or procession. Prohibitory orders remain in force across the New Delhi district, except at the designated protest site of Jantar Mantar.
The reason me and my friends are here is because we are the ones who have put government on the seat that they have. And if they feel like they're not accountable, not just for NEET per se, this is the main motive we have right now, but in the due course, if there is a feeling that if something's gone wrong and you feel like you can be at a position of not answering it, then that's incorrect. So I feel we should all gather here in order to at least solidify our decision.
All right, let me welcome my guests on Race to Power tonight. Mr. Sandeep Ghosh joins us. He's a political commentator and author. He's joining us live on the broadcast from Kolkata. Mr. Ghosh, good evening. Welcome to WION. Good to have you on the show. Can I start by asking you what you thought about what happened in the national capital today? There have been dramatic scenes that unfolded, and there are two aspects to it as I see it. One is the genuine legitimate concern of a student as far as, paper leaks are concerned. The other are concerns that that, look, this entire protest has been hijacked by political parties and people who might have their own vested interests. How do you see today as a mark of dissent?
The second part, Shreya, which you mentioned, whether it's hijacked, I don't think the political parties have hijacked it because, in fact, it was they were given the opportunity on a platter by the CJP people to come and speak to them and take up their cause both inside and outside the parliament. But I haven't really seen any definite engagement by the political parties, the opposition parties, to come out and take these people on board and take their issue into the parliament or whichever form. Now, the political parties seem to be working on their own agenda. And here, there was the so-called CJP. One is not very clear as to who are the real CJP members or who constitute the real CJP. But whatever, at least Sonam Wangchuk, who was, having the hunger strike and protesting, and Abhijit Deepke, they made certain statements which were, I wouldn't call it reconciliatory, but they were moving towards some kind of dialogue. But the people who have moved in, I'm not too sure, Shreya, whether they are political parties or they are people who have been mobilized to, simple terms, fish in troubled waters, but more than that, to create an anarchical movement, a moment. And that is, I don't think any particular political party has owned up to that mobilization.
Mr. Ghosh, while all of these concerns remain and we have seen, the kind of scuffles that broke out between the protesters and the police today, the CJP members did meet with JP Nadda and they've put out 3 demands: the resignation of the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, releasing Sonam Wangchuk from the hospital, and giving a compensation of 1 crore rupees to the kin of the victims of the NEET paper leak suicide. One, do you think the government will fulfill all of these 3 demands? And 2, many say that if they fulfill these demands, it will set a wrong precedent. Do you agree with that?
There are 2 parts to it, Shreya. One is, the compensation part. I think it is, I'm less worried about it. That's a matter, and that's a humanitarian thing. The government can well take a position. But as far as Sonam Wangchuk is being made out as if he has been held custody, but at least the official position is there that he is there in hospital for health reasons, as the court directed, without saying that they need to do that, but they said do whatever is necessary to ensure his health. And so there is a bit of contradiction between Sonam Wangchuk himself at one point saying that he's 20% down and he'll have an organ collapse and then his brain will collapse, etc. And then his wife and other people saying no, he's in perfect order. So why are you keeping him inside in a hospital and making it out as if he is in custody? But the bigger point is asking for a resignation of the education minister. Is that going to solve the problem? And in terms of precedents, I think that is where the worry is, because even yesterday you found that there were certain, I call them, activists for all seasons and for all reasons, who were coming on board and to say that it's no longer Dharmendra Pradhan, it's the Prime Minister who should resign. So they are trying to escalate it and up the ante. So that has, I think, serious dimensions and connotations.
Mr. Ghosh, here's my limited argument. As much as the resignation of the education minister might seem a symbolic move, do you not think it will also send a message by the government to the students who have genuine concerns? Leave all the politicians aside, leave those who have vested interests aside. Just a symbolic move to send out a message that, look, we are listening to you, we are listening to your concerns, and we are acting upon it.
I think the better way, it's the easiest thing to ask somebody to go, and if thereafter life carries on as usual. I think the bigger issue would be the government to comprehensively address how they are trying to reform the education system and this whole NEET and everything has to make it more foolproof. it's not as if, these paper leaks and everything has happened only just now. It has been in the system for a very long time in various forms. So there is an endemic problem with our administration of all these tests or the education thing. So the government has to come out with very categorical statements as to how they propose to address it. And here, the other point which you were saying, then the parliament needs to function. And if the political parties are genuinely concerned about the issues of the youth, they should allow for that discussion and, in fact, compel the government to have a constructive discussion and debate inside the parliament to say, hey, what you want to do, how you're going to go about it. But I think the problem is even larger, Shreya. It's not just limited to examination. I think today there is a large problem of angst among the youth, because even if they get the examination and pass the course, where are the jobs for them? So there is an element of disillusionment. There is a frustration or whatever. So there's a much larger problem which the nation has to cope with.
That's right.
Irrespective of who they are.
That's right. One has to deal with it and one has to find quick solutions to it. I'll leave it there. Mr. Sandeep Ghosh, thanks very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thanks for having me, Shreya. Thanks.
All right, with that, let's shift our focus now to the UK. The United Kingdom has turned the page on yet another Prime Minister. With Andy Burnham's entry at the 10 Downing Street, curtains have officially fallen for Keir Starmer's leadership. Larry the Cat, Chief Mouser of 10 Downing Street, has now outlasted 6 Prime Ministers. Remember, Keir Starmer gave his final speech as UK's Prime Minister today before tendering his resignation to the British monarch, King Charles III. He said Britain is now stronger and fairer than it was 2 years ago.
My work is done. In 6.5 years, I took our party from a historic defeat in 2019, changed it so it was fit to face the country, and won a landslide general election victory in 2024. Since then, it has been the privilege of my life to serve you and this great country as Prime Minister. And I am confident that Britain is now stronger and fairer than it was 2 years ago.
Following his speech, Starmer's motorcard moved to the Buckingham Palace, royal residence and the administrative headquarters of the monarch of the United Kingdom. Andy Burnham also arrived at the Buckingham Palace, where he met with King Charles, who invited him to become UK's 7th Prime Minister in a decade. Following this, Burnham moved to the 10 Downing Street, where he was welcomed by supporters and family members. He also made his first address as UK's Prime Minister and promised a new governance and economic model.
We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. A new political model and a new economic model.
Andy Burnham, who's earned the nickname of King of the North, will seek to stop over a decade-long revolving door of the British prime ministerialship. He's promised to rewire the nation and focus on people-centric issues. As part of this change, he has promised to establish a prime ministerial outpost in Manchester. He calls it Northern Number 10. It's aimed to move some of the political apparatus away from the capital. Remember, there are multiple challenges already awaiting him: cost of living, affordable healthcare, economy and defence spending. He's promised that he will stick Labour Party's 2024 manifesto. He will stick to it and will not raise income tax rates. Burnham has been working to finalise his cabinet appointments as well, but he's kept the names close to his chest. The new UK Prime Minister is now likely to spend his first week shaping up his cabinet. Britain has been marred by political instability since Brexit, starting from David Cameron. He secured a re-election but ended up on the losing side of the Brexit vote. Cameron stepped down 20 days after Brexit referendum. Then came Theresa May, another Conservative leader who lasted in the office for 3 years, 11 days. She resigned midway. And Brexit figurehead Boris Johnson became the new British Prime Minister. Johnson secured a landslide victory in 2019 elections. After him, Liz Truss became the British Prime Minister in 2022. She was followed by Rishi Sunak, who ended the term that began with Boris Johnson's victory. Labour Party came to power in 2024 and Keir Starmer secured a landslide victory. Starmer's popularity went down. The party faced a major loss in the by-elections. Keir Starmer resigned under pressure, making way for Andy Burnham now. And joining us live from London is our correspondent, Ollie Barrett. He's getting us all that has been happening. Ollie, a new day, a new person at the helm of affairs for UK. New person means new energy, new hopes. Andy Burnham has said, beg your pardon, he's now Prime Minister Andy Burnham. He said that he wants this moment to be a circuit breaker. How difficult or easy it is going to be for Prime Minister Burnham to break the circuit?
It's going to be very difficult indeed, Shreya, and that's exactly why we've seen 7 UK Prime Ministers now in a little over a decade here in the UK, because they've all, when they've got through that famous black door, found it very difficult indeed to deliver the change that they felt was necessary and that they promised the electorate. All sorts of challenges facing Andy Burnham now. He has declared that the first thing he's going to do is get his officials to end rough sleeping and tackle homelessness. He says that's the first thing he's getting down to doing today. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, he says he'll set out ways in which he can ease cost of living fears and concerns and costs indeed for many British families and individuals. And he'll tell us, crucially, he says, how he's going to pay for that. And he also says later in the year he'll set out what he calls a 10-year master plan for Britain. Now, his critics say that the Labour Party he leads now has delivered chaos to the UK. It's delivered the instability that he now says he's going to try and solve. His critics also say he's avoiding scrutiny because the House of Commons behind me is on recess now until September, so he won't be facing, as Prime Minister, any questions, difficult questions from MPs in the chamber behind me for many weeks now. But Andy Burnham trying in that speech outside Downing Street to inject some hope, some optimism, some positivity, not just into his message, but in his vision for the UK in the months and years ahead. He and those around him feel that that was sorely lacking when Keir Starmer came to power.
All right, Ollie, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for getting us the latest and, of course, giving us a perspective of how the next few weeks and months look for Prime Minister Burnham. Thanks very much for joining us at the moment. Well, shifting our focus now to India, Madhya Pradesh has become the latest Bharatiya Janata Party-ruled state to adopt the Uniform Civil Code. The proposed law promises one set of civil rules for all communities, but it also introduces strict provisions on live-in relationships, inheritance and marriage. Now, remember, this comes after the state cabinet had unanimously approved the UCC Bill 2026, which will now be introduced in the Assembly during the monsoon session. Chief Minister Mohan Yadav said that the law is designed to ensure equal rights in marriage, divorce, inheritance, succession and live-in relationships, regardless of religion. Whether Ram or Rahim, the Uniform Civil Code has been brought to ensure equal rights for all. That is what the Chief Minister declared in the meeting. Now, one of the biggest changes in the proposed law is a complete ban on polygamy across all communities. Under the proposed law, a second marriage will only be valid after a legally recognized divorce. The bill also introduces tough rules for live-in relationships. Couples will have to register their relationship within 1 month. If a legally married person enters a live-in relationship with someone else, they could face up to 5 years in prison. Failure to register a live-in relationship or providing false information could also attract fines and jail terms. Now, the proposed code gives sons and daughters equal inheritance rights, and it removes the legal distinction between children born within or outside of a marriage, granting them equal status and property rights. However, the legislation will not apply to scheduled tribes and particularly vulnerable tribal groups who are living in protected areas in line with the constitutional safeguards. The BJP government says that the draft was prepared after extensive public consultations across all 51 districts of the state, but the opposition has criticized this move, accusing the government of diverting attention from issues such as unemployment, inflation, and the plight of farmers. Now, if passed by the Assembly, Madhya Pradesh will join Goa, Uttarakhand, Gujarat, and Assam in implementing a uniform civil code. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. As always, we'll keep getting you updates and analysis from here in India and across the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
Get the latest updates, breaking news, credible, clear, continuous, experts across aisles, diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, world is one.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION, World is One.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We are live on WION The World is one. Time now for fine print. American Joker, the headlines. The IRGC releases video showing Iranian missiles targeting U.S. military aircraft stationed at Aqaba Airport in Jordan and U.S. military targets in Kuwait. Claims an early warning radar system has been completely destroyed. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels declare